Hey everybody, what's going on? Wow, what another week of Dondi. Rob Cesternino back to talk about it all, and the fireworks keep firing on this wild season of Deal or No Deal Island. And of course, very excited to bring in the panel. No weasels here, of course, with us again. Jenny Autumn. Jenny, how are you?
Rob, I'm so good. What we witnessed tonight to me is definitely better than the first time I watched Sex and the City. Maybe not as good as when Seychelles watched it, but in the very least, much better than Sex and the City for me.
This was better than any Sex and the City episode
ever.
Okay, unless we don't think that the banker is like Sarah Jessica Parker or anything like that,
you
right?
think that was an Easter egg?
Could be a little.
Let's get the rumors going. Yeah.
Okay, and of course, back with us, it's Chappell. Chappell, how are you?
Hey, I think I'm the weasel here. I'm very excited to be here. This is an incredible episode of television we just witnessed because it's all the things that make Dr. Will a star and also all the things that make people really, 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 really want to stay away from him in these reality games. This is incredible.
A very Dr. Will-centric night, a big night for Will at the Banker's Temple, and a lot to unpack here as really we have got some high tension over on the Banker's private island. We will unpack all of that. We've got a lot still to come as well because we got Exit Press with MG, Maria Grace. Is she still sour with Dr. Will?
I know.
I mean, I think after watching the episode back, I think it'd probably be a little bit harder to be sour, but in the moment, I know these last few months, she has been seething. Like, she hated this man. If he's made amends, I would love to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Okay. All right. We'll find out tomorrow. Make sure you listen in. You can hear that in our Dondi podcast feed, weknowdondi.com, where you can also hear my exclusive interview with Dr. Will Kirby. I sat down for a marathon interview, and we really got to see a side of Will that we have rarely seen on reality TV. He talked about why he came back for Dondi and so much more. You could hear that in our Dondi podcast feed or watch the full video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at robswebsite.com/YouTube. But boy, we've really got a real rift going on between Dr. Will and the family. Really, Dr. Will and Parvati and David. I mean, forget the traitors. Here's where the drama's happening on reality TV.
That's right. Like, the girls are fighting. And it's, this is such a different experience than last season where it was like our one known quantity in Boston Rob. And obviously, like, many of us were rooting for him. So we're watching through this lens of like what keeps Rob in the game a little bit longer. And then we were, starting to love these other characters along the way. This is like a kind of different situation for, I think, a lot of us coming in, familiar with not only Dr. Will. We obviously know Parvati, and a lot of us know David from Australian Survivor. So, it started off so nice. We were watching Parvati and David. They like recognize each other. They're working together. They're mom and dad. This is so great. Like, yes. And then Will rolls up, and now we have conflict. And I think in this episode, and it's probably going to continue in the episodes to come, this was really shining a light on the fact where it's like you are picking a team here. I think that many of us that love all of these people feel very conflicted because we're rooting for everything at the same time. It's chaos. It's really, really conflicting and very fun.
Yeah, and we kind of look at the best case scenario for those people who are in the middle rooting for both sides was that this time all the people that we wanted were kind of just like out of the way. Like, Parvati can't go home, David can't go home. Yep. Pretty confident at this point. Like, we're hoping that Dr. Will beats the banker, and then you could take off one of these other pieces so then we can keep this going for next week. Okay, I want this party going down to the final three at this point. If the family has to just whittle itself down to the celebrities that we already know, I will be okay with that as long as they never get on the same page. As long as they're fighting, I'm good. This is great TV.
Yeah, and Parvati and David seem just utterly exasperated with Dr. Will. I'm not even sure exactly why they're as exasperated with Dr. Will as they seem to be. God knows what we're not seeing in the edited show.
I would be
I'm
fed
sure a
up.
lot.
I would be fed up just at what we saw. You know, like, think about it like this. If you don't think this is some type of big act, or even if you do, this man is completely commandeering the entire show so that he can storm off and complain about the outcome
Don't say
of
storm.
results. Oh, I'm sorry. So he can wander off and complain about the outcome of the results of the game. We watch a billion reality shows. Rarely do we hear about somebody just throwing a fit and just like, no, I don't like this. When it's something that they completely orchestrated themselves and then go on to grandstand and tell the story of it and make us all listen to the longest drawn out version of what just happened. I probably would have been at my wit's end as well if I was playing against Dr. Will.
Yeah.
But as a fan, I turn it up. I need more of this. This is exactly what I signed up for.
So to me, I feel like that this was trademark Dr. Will in this episode tonight. And I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, like when he came in and was talking about how, and Parvati referenced it of like, hey, you all better be playing hard. You all better be adding money to the pot. And I want to see big money added in. I was like, this does not seem to me like the Will Kirby that I knew, the Will Kirby that was sort of like, hey, Will, you're not taking this seriously. You're just willing to go up on the block. And the fact that he was so nonchalant about that he didn't care about being there or not, I think was what made people feel like that he wasn't a threat. And I feel like that tonight we really got the fully formed Deal or No Deal Island version of that, of like people being frustrated. He's not taking the game seriously. He's just fooling around. Like, won't you act like you're being serious like the rest of us? And he won't do that.
Well, as you know, Deal or No Deal Island is a very, very serious show. We must treat it with the highest level of respect.
Yes.
At a certain point, we are, we're getting down to, playing a game of Deal or No Deal out in the jungle. There's parts of it that's like, what is taking this seriously? I don't really know what that looks like. But I feel like, we watched last week where we're like, oh, Will is winning challenges. Like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Will doesn't win challenges. Like, Will is throwing. If you've seen the deleted scene from last week, I think it fills in a few of the blanks. But now we are back to what we're grown used to in our experience with Dr. Will, where he's unserious and he's going to take risks and he's going to make good television while he's doing it. It seems pretty clear from the beginning that he's planning on throwing.
Can I say something else that we saw in this episode that we've never seen before on Dondi? It was raining.
Yeah.
Do we not see rain usually?
Is this our first ever inclement weather on Dondi?
Well, wasn't it rain when Storm and MG were out?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but that was like at nighttime. But this was like the first time like we ever saw like Joe was under an umbrella. Like Excursion was sort of like in wet weather. Usually the weather is pristine on the Banker's private island.
Yeah, well, rain was falling, and that meant there was going to be some chaos on Dondi this week. And like Jenny said, Dr. Will did not disappoint in that area. I think for me, it's always that he wants to present that he doesn't care. But he's still trying to win. And he's telling us, this is all a part of my master plan. Like, he knows how to play all the angles. He's annoying the people by acting like he doesn't care. He's telling us, I'm still going to win, because if he does, look, it was all my idea. And then he's telling the producers everything they want to hear. It's just a lot of antics, a lot of shenanigans. And this is all what you get when you get Dr. Will. I think for a long time, we've been so far removed from him playing reality games that people might have forgotten and started thinking about him as the evil mastermind he is. And he is that. But he's also a cartoon version of that. And I think they're really starting to find that out this season.
A cartoon villain, yeah.
So I would like to talk a little bit about the Banker's Temple. And Will had maybe a, new emergent gameplay at the Banker's Temple tonight. He ends up picking up number 12, case number 12, and then proceeds to pick case number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. And the peanut gallery was exasperated. They were so annoyed. Like, oh my God, He's picking number 2. What? Oh my God. Don't even do. If he picks number 3, I can't even.
Yeah.
What? Who cares?
I know.
Oh, like he's not taking it seriously. Why isn't he picking random numbers based from his gut instead of picking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Guess what? There's no logic to picking numbers on Deal or No Deal.
You're right.
Chappell, if I go play the lotto and I play numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my God, idiot, stupid, moron. Yeah, it's the same probability that those are going to be the winning numbers.
Yes, but if you show up here day 1 and tell us all, day 2 actually, with a whole week off and tell us all, we don't know what we're doing, we don't know how to play the game, we're the worst people who ever existed, he's going to wipe the floor with us, he's going to put so much money in the bank. He comes in with this air of, I'm taking this seriously, I'm going to mop the floor with all of you. Then he goes on to annoy these people for 3 straight days, okay? 3 straight days. By the time they got to this man could have sneezed and they would have rolled their eyes, okay? It is not just, oh, he picked some cases. This man is completely taking the wind out of everyone's sails, and you can just tell, like, David looks like he's about to physically combust. Like, it's just like he's shaking, he's turning red. Like, Parvati's patting on the back, like, there, honey. Like, calm down. It's gotten real. I think the cases are the least of their worries.
Yeah, they hated it so much.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, with numbers, especially when it's like, you know, in this case, it's 1 to 12, and in most cases, so much usage of the word case, but like he could take that strategy of just going 1, 2, 3, but you can find a meaning or a connection to a lot of numbers if you really try. So like, but I think that maybe what might be part of what really pissed them off, which a lot of it is just that they were already pissed off. It becomes like bitch eating crackers energy, which I don't think that it even is. Like, he's doing enough to piss everyone off anyway. So, but at this point, it's like every little thing will drive you nuts. I think that the point where they're playing the game and they're giving a personal story or a personal connection to a reason why they pick certain numbers, that's like a human moment. That's showing a little bit of personality. It's a little bit of vulnerability. Usually there's like a story, or just shows like, you know, a sensitive side or a more personal side of someone. And I think that the way that Dr. Will is and the way that he plays this game is like he just never gives that. And they already feel like he's being so performative that is like especially frustrating. I don't think it's so much about like, why would you, oh, that's so boring, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, this is the moment we thought maybe we might learn something about you and you might come down to our level and be a person, and no, you're entertaining. Now me, the viewer, is like, this is incredible. But I think that there might be something there with that.
And Jenny, just to give credit, he did say, okay, well, what's the square root of 9? 3. And so there could have been a personal story there.
Yeah. See, this is like if you invited somebody. But this is like if you invited somebody on a podcast and was like, so what'd you think about the show? And they said, it was cool. It's like, that's it.
Next question.
Cool. Next question. It's like, you know the assignment here, right?
Chappell,
so
why do you have to bring up some of my most upsetting podcasts?
Because you acting like this is brand new to you. Sir, this man is supposed to be filling the space. Ben and Kamari looked annoyed. I was like, Kamari, please, Ben, calm down. Like they were like rolling their eyes as they're opening the cases. There's excitement in Deal or No Deal. The entire game, in its exception, is just like a random game of chance. It always has been. So to go up there and kind of just be like, I don't know, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It really does defeat the purpose of what we're doing here in the first place.
You're right. It's sort of, it does break the show. Like, it's supposed to be like, oh my God, I'm feeling that it's like, that's like, there's like some, you know, like tension in that of like, okay, should I listen to this person? Oh, my kid's number is this, like, oh, you know, so.
Had he went home, this would have been the most anticlimactic episode of television ever. It would have been the worst episode of TV I've ever seen. Because he would have done all that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everybody would have complained, and then they would have been like, "Well, thank God this guy is gone," and we'd have wasted a whole entire episode. Now I'm kind of with the cast on this one. He was playing a dangerous game here.
Yeah, but he's playing with his life in the game, and it ultimately comes up for Dr. Will. He ends up with another shocking elimination at the Banker's Temple. We had Dixon last week, and then Will follows suit and really does the ultimate like Dr. Will fake out of once he said CK's name, you knew CK was going to be fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe the people in the room, this was a surprise to them, but this was classic Dr. Will. I'm pretty sure even like in Big Brother 2, and it's been a minute since I'm pretty sure that this is how he does the eviction at the final 4, that he has to give the vote on one of them.
Oh, when he evicted
in All Stars?
Monica? In BB2
2.
would have been Monica. I hope he didn't do that. She was having a hard time.
I want to say I want to say
maybe it was a Hardy.
I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe it was a Hardy boot. It wasn't
yeah,
a Monica boot.
Yeah.
No.
But anyway, I don't know. I'd have to go back and check the records on that one. Okay.
Yeah, check the tapes.
Okay. That being said, let's go back to the beginning of this episode. And so Dixon comes back, is riding high after what he did.
I love this guy. I need you to just fill your soundboard up with like Dixon, just positive affirmations, just like it's like, take that, Dr. Will. I was like, yeah, Dixon, you're a
I'm still alive.
Yeah, I'm still alive, baby. I was like, yes. No, Dr. Will took this very personally. I wasn't expecting this to, I mean, or at least he's presenting that he took this very personally, that Dixon is a weasel and he betrayed him. And he did it as a power move.
Yeah. And Dr. Will says he's a weasel.
Yeah.
It's time to go weasel hunting.
Yeah.
So, but he also says, I mean, it's not just that he's a weasel. He talks a big game, and he says he's a pawn, and he's gonna go home and he's gonna be embarrassed. Yeah. Like he's writing the narrative for what he thinks the end of the story will be for Dixon here.
Yeah. Dr. Will seems to be staunchly anti-weasel.
Yeah.
He loves turtles, though, I've heard.
Yes, but for whatever reason, weasel, he does not love weasels.
He likes bears too. I'm a big fan of weasels. He does like a bear.
Yeah.
Small dogs.
Okay.
Small dogs.
Not so much weasel.
There was a lot of Philip in this episode. I was starting to worry for Philip in this episode because this was, to me, I feel like in Deal or No Deal Island season 1, you started to see like a person like started to get like, as Stephen Fishback has coined it, the personal story bump. It makes me feel like, oh, I'm a little worried for them. And then when Philip ultimately is vulnerable tonight, I'm like, uh-oh, this is really maybe 2 strikes for Philip tonight. Luckily, Philip ends up sticking around. So maybe this is like a case for maybe is Philip the winner of the show because we get some very nice backstory on Philip.
I mean, I kind of took that away from it, Rob, is that I think, it's hard to compare like edgic of, a show like Dondi that is new. It's only in its 2nd season compared to like, some of the formula that we've seen in shows like Survivor. But
especially considering the formula for how they edited the winner of season 1.
Right. Well, and I almost took that as like maybe, if you're Philip and you win this game, and in this phase of the game, you're not really a part of a lot of the conflict that's really making the episodes. You don't want to make Philip invisible so that we're like, there were episodes last season. The 3 of us were like, who's Jordan? And so I think that maybe that could be like, the editing team trying to like, correct that, being like, okay, well, even though Philip isn't a part of like really a big part of what's happening right now, it's kind of the story of the family versus Will and like some of Will's people. Like we gotta tell some of Philip's story. So it could be that. But you're right, Rob. It also could be preparing that, like, tell a little bit of his story because he won't be around much longer. I don't know.
Yeah. He gives his take on the millennial struggle of needing therapy. And sometimes people just start saying stuff and it sounds so real. You're like, oh, I forgot we all going through this as well. You know, he talks about just like, I don't know what it is about this specific generation, but it's like they told us we needed therapy. And when we saw all the trauma happening, we were like, one day we're going to get therapy. And now we can all sit around and talk about our anxiety and all our ailments and all of the medications that we're on. And he's just like talking about how he was able to pull himself up from some body image issues that he was having. He was bullied, and how he was able to overcome, and how he wants to be a positive force and a role model to other people who feel like they need to overcome too. So if you're going to have a winner story, this is a pretty decent one. Jordan's story was incredible once we finally heard it. And so episode 5 probably wouldn't be a bad time to start sprinkling some more Philip content.
And you know what? Philip looks great. He's a positive role model for me.
Oh yeah, he body shames me daily. Every time I turn on the episode,
just by being on TV.
Right?
Yes.
Why is this man on television?
I will work to have more cleavage in the podcast. That this is the positive influence Philip has had on me.
When I pop out with my summer cleavage, y'all ain't gonna be able to tell me nothing. Okay, I'm putting these things out.
Yeah.
No, this was, I think this was also an interesting scene though, because it's in the context of he's sharing that, like he's talking to Parvati and David in this scene, and he's like, he's kind of sharing like we all just like say, yeah, I'm okay, and then it's like gas again, and you're like, okay, you really want to know? We're like, bearing all with each other. Sorry, not to use that term all over again, but
also there's cleavage. Yeah.
Exactly, definitely. And Parvati hugs him. She says she loves him, and then we get this confessional from Parvati as well, where she says she has like an interesting relationship with Philip. She really likes him, but she doesn't think that he has a mind for the strategy, and he doesn't fit into the family. But she needs him on her side. And I thought that this was like an interesting like framing of that whole situation. And I'm wondering if this is like foreshadowing of like, again, is Parvati maybe not seeing Philip for what he could be, and because I feel like we've seen pretty early that Philip's kind of clocked what he needs to be wary of with Parvati. So this could be some foreshadowing that perhaps Philip is the one that gets the last laugh in this situation.
Yeah, Jay, I think that's a really great observation. I think that so much of Philip's story so far has been about Parvati. I feel like that one of his very early confessionals is talking about that he recognizes Parvati and that he wants to work with Parvati, but Parvati doesn't quite think that he fits in with the family. And then ultimately that culminates tonight in that betrayal that Parvati does, that she lies to Philip. And we'll talk about that. But I do think that Philip's story, maybe he doesn't win, but it does feel like that his story is very intertwined with Parvati, whether Parvati gets him out of the game, whether he gets Parvati out of the game. I think that's something else to keep an eye on these next couple of weeks.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if he's keeping his strategic mind maybe a little bit under wraps for somebody like Parvati, so she doesn't necessarily see him coming, because we haven't seen Philip presented as someone who doesn't really have an eye for strategy. So when she said that, I was actually kind of surprised, because I felt like maybe they were like almost a strategic duo outside of the family, when in fact, it just feels like they have a really good close personal bond.
Yeah. Very quietly, we have the family, which at the time of this episode occurring is Parvati, David, and Dixon, and Maria Grace is now firmly ensconced in the family after Storm goes out of the game. So there's those four. Then there's Dr. Will sort of alone on an island. And then the people who are in the middle. The people are Letty, Seychelle, Philip, and CK. And those four.
Also, Lachelle. I feel like
Lachelle
is not. But here's the thing. Lachelle is not in a lot of these conversations that take place later in the game. But she's not in the family. And I think that she's maybe working with some of these other people. But that one is not clear.
I don't think she loves Dr. Will.
I don't think she does.
But who does? I think that at this point, I think that she's seemingly very tied to Seychelle. Like they've worked together in the past couple episodes as well. They were like, so I see basically everybody who's not in the family is just the other side, and then there's Will. I don't think there's like a lot of stragglers who haven't picked a side. It's the family or bust. And some people are trying to play both sides and kind of like be close enough to the family where they don't get picked off. But the family is a tight-knit group, and it's going to be hard to get some of them out of the game.
Okay, so Letty and Seychelle are pissed. They hate Dixon. They say it's curtains for the family.
I love it.
I'm loving Seychelle. Like I feel like she really starts to rise in this episode, and I just love like she's just getting boss energy. She's just like, it's curtains. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, but the other thing is like not only they are pissed off at Dixon, and MG is also saying, she's like, I didn't really agree to be in this family with Dixon. So I think that at this stage of the game, the only people who are really happy with Dixon are mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
But
Proud
yeah,
parents.
the Seychelle and Letty are talking more about like, this is the time. Parv's the head of the snake. We need to knock out someone from the family.
Yeah, but siblings fight. You know, Dixon betrayed MG. MG stole his hairbrush. You know, that's what siblings do, right? Like, oh, I was supposed to go do this.
You eliminated my boyfriend.
I want to take the car out. You know, like this is a normal spat, okay? No, MG sounds like she is pissed. And I don't think she had a real issue working with Dixon prior to the Storm thing. But as I suspected pretty much that like she would have flipped on Dixon if possible. But you know, the family's tight. Mom and dad are going to be like, no, play nice with your brother. It's okay. And so everything is going to work out in the short term, but maybe not the long term for MG.
Certainly not.
Let's talk about the excursion that we go on this week. And we're going to be taking people up to new heights. And basically, we're going to partner up and we're going to have people play a little bit of a game of bluffing with each other. Although the only two people who actually end up in a bluff off are Parvati and Philip. That I think this game was really designed to be a little bit more like the game we saw in season 1, where two people opened up a case and it was sort of like, okay, do they have the, you know, what case do they have? I forget if it was like higher or lower. I think that they were hoping that we would get a little bit more of like what happened with Philip and Parvati.
I wonder, and I will say I loved this challenge still, even if we didn't get a ton of drama in terms of people lying to each other. I still think there was a lot of like strategizing, because you know one person in each pair would end up safe from the banker and being eliminated, so that obviously weighs heavy on people. I think maybe I liked that, you know, they paired up without knowing what the premise would be, and then finding out that they were against each other. Like that was kind of like a fun little twist, but I wonder if that kind of hampered the like ability for there to be more drama between these pairs, because most of them were people that were kind of looking out for each other, had each other's best interests, so they were more likely to try to like collaborate for the greater good. And I wonder if maybe if the teams were random, that we might get a little bit more deception. I don't know, because it seemed like most of them chose like their partners, except for Will.
So yeah, I think we would have got a little bit more of that, because it seemed like the people were working with people they already had a comfortable working relationship with, and so that people were comfortable to say, okay, I need it tonight more than you do, and so in a couple of cases that there wasn't too much of a fight put up. So maybe random draw would have been better, but we still got some drama across the board where, okay, Letty and Lachelle, we spent a lot of time on who was going to end up getting safe from Letty and Lachelle. Lachelle really wanted to be safe, but ultimately it's Letty who ends up getting the $3 million case.
Lachelle said, the banker's a bitch. And I was like, Lachelle! I kind of love Lachelle, man. Every time they cut to Lachelle, she's doing something hilarious in the background. Yeah, they look up and Letty's like, I have the higher case here. And so they just kind of talk it out. And she's like, yeah, but you know, I'll make sure you're safe. No one's going to come after you. Lachelle is putting up a fight because she has been in the line of fire several times. And I don't know, Rob, maybe the first season, I don't remember if how it worked, but maybe when they were doing the case switching, that the person who lost wasn't necessarily automatically in the bottom and vice versa. Like I feel like
think
they
it
were
was a team. They were
teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I think this is different too, because you are deciding between the two of you who is going to be in the bottom. Whereas this is on like an individual basis. Whereas since that was teams, you had people who were trying to keep their whole team safe. So they were more incentivized to lie. You know, this time it's like, all right, I'll throw you a bone, or or vice versa, because I really didn't like this challenge at all.
Yeah. Did you like Joe's like steampunk machine to control the hammocks going up and down?
That was kind of cool. Yeah, that was kind of
Yeah.
cool. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wouldn't have wanted to fall to my death, so I probably would have just pulled the thing at some point.
You
Like,
would have pulled a Dixon?
yeah. Well, no, Dixon was trying. Like, Dixon is trying to play the game. I would have literally been opting out. Like, no, I'm the first one. We're going. We're done. It doesn't matter what the number is. I'm not going up there. I don't know. I'm not afraid of heights, but I'm afraid of dying, and so I just don't really want to do that on this show. You know, we saw a
I
tree
didn't know
fall
that about you.
Afraid of death? Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
No, but I mean, you're saying that you wouldn't have even gone up that high on the hammock.
It seemed very high. I think maybe
It's
if
like
it
80
wasn't.
feet.
Yeah, it was 80
yeah,
feet.
yeah. Like, I probably would have been like, "No, I'm good. I don't need immunity this time.
Mhm.
I'll be all right." No, who would take me out of the game, Rob? Really? Me?
That's good point.
Yeah.
If you don't have to worry, then it's like, why am I putting myself through this stress? If you have the
Right.
social game on lock, if you're right in the middle,
Yeah.
maybe you don't need to be safe. And
Yeah.
what a flex. I loved this challenge though. I thought it was really interesting. The cases were random on each side, and it took me like a couple rounds to figure out, because like I guess they could see, or some people could see all the way up, or they had to get a little bit higher to see like the rest of them to determine what the highest case was. But I think what's interesting to note is that yes, the cases were random, but there were situations where like not everyone had the opportunity to get the same amount of cases. Like I at least based on what we saw from the edited version on television here, it looks like as long as Letty goes for that $3 million case, that
She
was
wins.
guaranteed. She was guaranteed to win, because it didn't seem like any of the other pairs, although we did not go very far with Dixon and Will.
Yeah. Well, we can't have a
that
tie.
had that high of a case, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe all of the number values were different, so we didn't end up with two people having the same. So I guess if you were in that first pairing that ended up going, that was the secret that was going to get you the highest case.
Yeah, but you had to be willing to go all the way up there. And I think that's the thing. Like, if people are afraid of heights or opting out like I would have, then that case being 3 million doesn't matter, because no one's ever going to get to it. You know, like they try to get up there, they don't get to it. And then the next round, the highest case is 2.9 or something, right? And so Letty had the opportunity. She sees the opportunity, and she wins. Nobody ever has a chance to catch her at that point.
Okay, let's talk about CK and Seychelles. Seychelles wants CK to know that if she gets it, she's going to go after the family, and she gets CK to agree to take a lower case. She gets she drops CK. I think she gets 2.5 million. Okay, all right. Maria Grace and David, not a lot of drama there either. That basically David says, I want immunity. Maria Grace is like, I want you to have immunity, and they ultimately get David a case for 2 million.
Like a daughter.
Yes, very good.
She says, I mean, I like David as a person. You're not playing a good game per se, you know. I just think he's just a little bit here. I don't think these people are so funny.
Doesn't
you know,
even
they're
know
like
what Survivor is.
Yeah, I had to teach him from Survivor.
like this man. Okay, I'll let him be immune, because I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Ain't nobody gonna come after me. I'm playing a great game. I was like, MG, no.
I will say like this in defense of MG here, and that, you know, without knowing who else might end up safe and who else might end up vulnerable here, and maybe not knowing how much of how much everyone else in the game is against the family, with the information she has at this point in the game, I don't think that that's a crazy call, because
Right.
with Storm going out, I think that you think, if you're MG, you think that just took a lot of heat off of me. Maybe part of that was, you know, people saw us starting to hang out together, and now that's one less person I'm connected to, and I'm not a really big threat. I was like in the lower middle of the ranking last week. So you're with one of your allies, your father, your game father, and thinking
Game
like,
daddy.
you know, you need this more than I do. unfortunately, she ends up in a situation where her entire family is going to end up safe, and I don't think she realizes how much the tides have turned against these people. But I think that if you're thinking about your place in the game in a vacuum, she's thinking, yeah, I'm in a good enough spot that I'm okay to give my good ally David immunity here over me. I'll take the risk. I think I'm good. There's a lot of other stuff going on. So I will say that in defense of MG, I just think that with what she's probably thinking at this point in the game, it makes sense for her.
Who's worried about little old MG?
I mean,
I don't even have
agree.
a showmance anymore.
I think she was probably lowest target of that 4, right? Like,
yeah, and even more to her credit, let's say worst case scenario, Dr. Will is the one who wins this. He's probably going after CK. Why would he come after me?
Mm-hmm.
We know he hates CK. They have waged war on each other. Like, I think with the information she had, I think she did probably the optimal move, for, despite, know.
Yeah.
And I'll say for Maria Grace, I think that she gets unlucky in that Parvati, David, and Dixon, the other family members, all end up immune. So she doesn't know that at the time.
Yeah, if any one of them is vulnerable, she's not the one who goes.
She's 4 out of 4, but she's the only one that's available to get a shot in on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't think that's going to happen. You're not thinking about that. For sure. If any of those other 3 were also vulnerable, MG is still in this game. Like, guaranteed, I'd say.
All right. Let's talk about Parvati and Philip. Okay. They've had such an interesting relationship. And so Parvati talks to Philip and he says, you can't win this. Yeah. Is he talking about the competition or the game?
The competition, I think.
I don't know what the question is anymore. The competition of the game. The
excursion.
The excursion. Yes, the excursion.
Okay.
Woo.
He said, Parvati, you can't be the person who picks the person that goes into the Banker's Temple. Why? Because her threat level is too high?
Yeah, he's trying to talk. He's trying to talk her out of being safe because he's like, I don't want her to be safe. Everybody else has to have an opportunity to be unsafe, and this just isn't fair. So his argument is that, like, Parvati, people know you're from Survivor. Dr. Will outed your entire game in front of everybody. We can tell you're in the family. Doing this is going to make people gun for you. And as your ally, I can't allow you to be safe this round. And Parvati's like, all right, whatever. She's seen this game before. She's like, baby, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't you okay, Philip, thank you. So yeah, quite worked. But I saw the argument he was making.
Okay.
Especially because it's like, there's a difference between like winning and then still being safe. Like, I could see being like, hey, if you had the opportunity to make sure that you were still safe from being eliminated, but you're not like the person with the highest case value and you're, have all the power, that's probably heat you don't want on you. But because it's the way that this like challenge is set up, that it's like it's either you or me and the other person is definitely vulnerable, like of course that's the point that Philip's going to make. It's a lot easier to make that point if there's a way that you can get Parvati to not try to like get the highest value, but she's also potentially still safe. So it was like yeah, it's like a little bit obvious that it's like a beneficial situation for you as well. But like, I love that he tried it, and I love that they both try it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parvati asks Philip, "What do you have?" And he says, "I have 1 point. What do you have?"
Right? Did he never said?
I thought he
number.
said 5.
So
I think he said 5 after. I think he asked what do you have?
Well, what number did she say? I thought she
said 1.52, and that's what
she says. I have 1.5.
See, that's
when
what
she
I'm saying.
Really had 1.8.
So I think
he had 1.6.
I think this is some fancy editing. I don't think because it made it look like Philip said 1.5 and Parvati backdoored and said, well, I was like, I was keyed into it because I was like, what is the lie that they're complaining about?
Yes.
And I heard nothing.
Well, then they say, okay, let's pull the thing, and then we reveal, and Parvati has 1.8 and Phil has 1.6, and Parvati's like, you lied. I was like, wow, this is some gaslighting.
Yeah, and he's like, you.
And Phil was like, so did you.
Mm-hmm.
You lied.
Okay.
But
she's like, how could you lie to me, Philip?
but the liar side, they both wanted to go to the same level anyway. They were both trying to go to level 4. They had agreed on
that was probably their best case. Yeah, right. Like,
and so when they start to lie, it really didn't matter. I mean, is it just because I wanted to pull the rope? You wanted to pull the rope? Didn't they pull at the same time? Like,
one of them's going to be safe and the other one isn't.
but they both agreed on level 4. So it didn't matter what they said, because if it was a $1 difference, like you were both, neither one of you were willing to go up another row. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was confused. Like, what's the argument here?
It exposed that they're like willing to be dishonest with each other to benefit their own game. So it's like, obviously, like, you know, if you're results oriented, it wouldn't have mattered no matter what. Like, they both thought that they were both getting their highest option that they could see. It just turned out that they told each other a little fib, but it's what it revealed about each other and how they feel about each other, right?
See, I think this was a huge deal, because I think that Philip thought he was agreeing to him being safe, and Parvati bluffed and was actually stealing the safety away from Philip. So it was a real rug pull when they opened the cases and revealed Parvati is safe.
Well, my thing is that, like, but his alternative was that, I mean, he said, I want this one anyway. Like, you can't tell me you want the case. I give you the case and be mad at you, like, wait a minute. You said your case
but he said he wanted it
mine.
because she said her case was lower.
Was there a higher option on the board or something that he should have gotten? Like, was that? That's what I'm questioning.
Sorry, go ahead, Rob. Well,
it mattered who had the higher case between the two of them. So he thought he was agreeing to where he had the highest, and Parvati misled him, and then surprise, Parvati's safe, not you, Philip.
Yeah.
So what I think might have happened. So first of all, there's a few things here. I heard Philip say 1.5. And then he asks Parvati what she has. She looks, pauses for a second. She says 1.5. What I think might actually, and then I'm like, well, this doesn't even make sense, because why are you guys agreeing on the same number? And also, Joe had said that the numbers would not be the same on both sides at any level. So there was never going to be a situation where it was a tie, right? So then I was like, well, why are they agreeing on that? And I think there's the way it was edited was confusing. And I think that what Philip was asking Parvati was like, my highest is right here. It's 1.5. What do you have? Like, what's on your board as your highest value? She looks up and says 1.5 while she's looking at 1.8. She says 1.5. So he's just saying, like, well, let me just take the 1.5. And so I don't know what he thought she had at that level, but it certainly wasn't 1.8, right? And but the way that it was edited was so confusing. And I think that's what happened, right? Was that she was like saying that she had like 1.5 further up, and that was her highest case as well, and that whatever she had.
But why would she say 1.5 is higher than 1.8?
Right.
She wasn't. She was already lying about what she had in front of him. I was just trying to make sense of them both saying 1.5 and then agreeing, because I was like, that doesn't even make sense. I think she was saying she also had 1.5 as her highest case, but it was further up, and they settled on him getting the 1.5, which was also not 1.5.
I think it was just a lie that she did not think through, that it couldn't possibly be the same number as him, and she just told him a low number that was a number that was lower than what he was going to have on his side, so that she could get him to agree to the deal.
Yeah, but he can't be mad. He lied too. They both lied. And I think that's what Parvati stands on. It's like, I know you're annoyed that I lied, but you lied too. And Philip is, the energy he's given is that he did not lie. Like, he is definitely given, like, Parvati betrayed me. Parvati lied to me for the first time in the game. He is not taking any responsibility for lying as well. And that's why I'm very confused as to the numbers that they were saying, because the first thing out of Parvati's mouth is, Philip, you lied to me. Yeah. But he's never like, he's like, yep, Parvati, I'm looking at her completely different now. I was like, did you not lie to her?
His lie is a little more confusing, that he has 1.6 and then he says 1.5, right? So I'm not sure why he lies and says he has a lower number than he has.
I didn't even hear him say 5. Like, I thought
that's what he said.
I thought it too until she said 5. And I was like, well, they both couldn't have said 5.
Either way, he comes away feeling some type of way about Parvati, because Parvati says, are we still friends? And he said, I don't know.
Yeah. Which I'm sure is a joke, right? Like, if you're not really friends with her anymore, you wouldn't say that probably, especially in a game like this where people can get eliminated for not being friends with you. But like, I do think there's probably some truth to it, you know, where he's looking at her more as a competitor now than a friend. I think for a while they've gotten like really close bonds, but he's been watching up close as Parvati has done the Parvati magic on other people. You know, we saw Parvati with Rock, we saw Parvati with Dixon, and Philip's just been sitting there thinking, like, dang, she's good. You know, like she's telling them one thing, but she's telling me something else. But at least I'm the one that she's honest to. Well, not necessarily. And so I think he's looking at her under a different light now.
Okay.
And I think that this is also just like a shocking revelation for Parvati as well. As earlier in this episode, she says that she doesn't think that he has a mind for strategy, and she just watched him pull the exact stunt on her that she was pulling on him simultaneously. So I think this is a little bit of a wake up call for her as well. Like they're gonna be like, you know, they're smiling at each other, they're hugging their friends, but like I definitely think they have their eyes on each other now through this.
Let's talk about Will and Dixon, okay? Will tells us he wants to play the banker, and he tells us about what his plan is of what he wants to do. And he wants to go into playing the banker, and he wants to pull the rope before Dixon does. They end up pulling the rope at the same time, and Dr. Will is seemingly upset. He's annoyed at how this outcome goes. And we see him walk off the show. He's not there. We don't even get to see what he's doing. He's upset with the outcome of the game. That's all we learn. I'm not sure exactly the part that he is upset about, that Dixon pulled the rope when he wasn't supposed to.
Because he didn't get to do his like he had a theatrical plan where he had a bit. It wasn't because he still got what he wanted, because he says that his plan, he wants to play the banker. We know that he apparently wanted to play the banker last week as well now. But he wanted to still be in charge of pulling the rope because, one, he knows that Dixon is afraid of heights, and he wants to play a little trick on him and make him have to fall and scare him a little bit. He's riding high after making a lot of money last night. He wants to give him a little spook. And then he also wants to be able to say his little speech that he's devised about, like, you're a weasel and I have you in my weasel trap. And he didn't get to do that because in his mind, he's going to pull it. Dixon's going to fall. He's still going to be up there. He's going to be able to say his speech. They both fall. It ruins everything. The scene's ruined. That's what I think he's mad about.
He wanted to look down on him. He said, I am above him, and I want to be physically above him, too. I want to look down my nose at him like, pathetic, you little weasel. Look, Rob, you know better than most people. Dr. Will loves a good bit, and he will put in all the effort to make sure that his bit is saw through. I mean, like, even if he has to, bring in a stuffed animal or something, like, Dr. Will will go above and beyond to make this happen.
Yeah, and Dixon ruined it by pulling the rope.
Well, Dixon was always going to pull the rope. Dr. Will tried to last second get the upper hand and pull the rope before Dixon so that Dixon was to fall. That was what was going on. Dixon never agreed to not pull the rope. Dr. Will was going to be like, haha, I got you at the last second, and ruin everything for him. And it just didn't work out.
Dixon got on that hammock and was immediately like, I need off. Let me off the ride. And I think that
he wasn't talking that trash.
No, not in this situation. Yeah. And I think that this is a situation where Will just like flew a little bit too close to the sun. He wanted it to be timed too perfectly, where he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to let him think that he's in control, and he pulls the rope. I'm going to pull it this right before him. And, we saw previous pairs decide to pull it at the same time because I think that we had, have some daredevils on our hands here. They're like, oh, let's both go for a little fall. So he didn't realize that the timing needs to be impeccable. So I think that he wanted to get a little too cute with it, and it just was not possible.
So this is, yes.
Go ahead.
This is wild. Okay. So Joe is going to do the reveal. Dr. Will is not here because he did not like the results of the game.
Which
I think
if I'm competing against him, and I hear this, I am probably annoyed too, right? We are grown as hell. We signed up to play this game. You gonna really pout and walk off the set? Like, how much of a diva are you? Like, if I'm in their situation, I'm like, who do you think you are? Like, I know you're Dr. Will, but damn, the rest of us are here to play the game. You can't just decide to opt out of the ceremony where we, find out about this. Like in Big Brother, they're like, oh, well, we'll put a penalty vote on you if you miss the veto competition or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is, I don't know. To me, like, I could definitely see why this would get under their skin.
And I get the sense that I hear disappointment in Joe's voice. We're astute watchers of Joe Manganiello also. He sounds a little disappointed with this. My question is, as a longtime watcher of Dr. Will, was him walking off part of the show? Is he doing something that's part of his, like, is this all part of it that we ultimately don't get to see? Like, is there going to be a, like what we saw last week, are we going to get a deleted scene on Wednesday of like what Dr. Will is saying when he's walked off this competition?
What do you think? I mean, I think that he was actually frustrated. Like I really do. I think that, you know, we know that he puts a lot of importance on being entertaining on these shows, and you know, he had a desired result. And I think at this point, maybe he knew that he was getting that result anyway. They must have discussed what the cases were. So he knows he's getting a lower amount anyway. But, you know, he had a failure on something that he holds really important, which is having a good TV moment, doing something. And I think that like just kind of jolted him into this like place of frustration. And he takes a little walk. I think that this was like sincere on his part. It wasn't about like, I don't like the rules of the game. Like, I'm taking my ball and going home. I don't think it's about the game. It was about like, damn it, I practiced a bit and I didn't get to do it. Like a truly human moment from Dr. Will. Now, he could turn around and say, no, I went and I did a confessional and never aired it. And I talked about how this is all part of my plan. And they think that I'm this or think of that. And I also think that that's very possible too. But to me, that my interpretation of it, he wanted to do something that he thought was going to be entertaining for the show. It didn't work out. That pissed him off. It wasn't about the game.
Rob, if this is Jeff Probst, how does he react to Dr. Will doing something like this if he's hosting Dondi?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Jeff is going to have no tolerance for
he choked him.
Yeah.
Have they met?
Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked is because Joe did seem disappointed, but I couldn't tell if it was like Joe is like Jenny has correctly, like, because I agree with Jenny. I think that Dr. Will is upset because the bit didn't work. Okay. So he stormed off. Joe is like, he wasn't okay with the outcome of the game. But like, I feel like that's kind of a smokescreen. That kind of gives like, yes, the outcome of the game, but really what he's upset because he didn't get to, you know, have his moment with Dixon, and he was cursing. He was very upset about it, like, or at least outwardly. And so I think Joe might have been in on it. I don't think it was completely planned or anything, or it was a fake moment, but I think they talked to Will, and Will's like, I was going to do a whole thing. And he's like, I guess I'll tell them that you were just upset or something. I don't know. Like, it just felt like
what else do you say?
Right. Any other host would have thrown a fit. Like, what if Joe went and told them the truth? Will did not come back because he tried to get one over on Dixon and it didn't work. It's like, what? Yeah, he tried to pull the rope before he pulled the rope to make him fall so he could look down on him and make fun of him. It's like, oh, yeah, that's not great.
I mean,
you know.
I guess technically it is still the result of the game, because for what Will wanted, the result was that he was going to pull the rope first, and they pulled it at the same time. So technically it's like not untrue. See, but I don't think that
like
about,
it feels like like we want you to believe that like Will is upset that he's now in the bottom, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay. So Letty has gotten the highest case. She is going to be the person who is going to decide who is going into the banker's temple. All right, Will's back now. And he says, he's describing what happened. He's telling he threw a fit and he wants to play the banker. David doesn't want Will to have that kind of power.
Yeah. I mean, it's a smart move from David. Like, I don't want you deciding who could go home, because the family's not working with Will. So you have to think that they could be a potential target.
So,
and he's such a wild card that it's like, you know, like we saw him again. If you saw the deleted scene from last week, stand up there being the person choosing who plays the banker and trying to do it himself. It's like, this is not someone that you feel safe about putting in a position of power here.
We have some tension as Dr. Will is telling the story of what he wanted to do, what he was going to do, what he was going to say. Parvati does not want to hear it. She's tired of this story.
She hates him.
She is not entertained.
She hates him. Oh, she is upset. Like, you could tell, like, Parvati is like, hey, man, more power to you. If this is what you want to do, baby, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this. He's like, the story is long-winded. We saw you throwing a fit. Now we have to listen to how brilliant you were for this whole elaborate plan where you're trying to do this thing. It's like, bro, this is not about you. Yeah, you can just see the frustration radiating off her skin.
I also
Yeah.
think she got a little mama bear here, because what
Mhm.
happens is that Will basically is like does the speech that he was
Yeah.
going to do to Dixon, and this
That's
is
a
the first
child.
time Dixon's hearing it. So Dixon is now hearing you're a weasel, and he's performing it for the group, and Parvati's pissed off by everything Will does at this point, but I think that there's a part of her that because I think this does clearly bother Dixon as we see him approach Will about it later. And so he's kind of making the scene where he's saying like, Dixon, you're a weasel and I was going to do this and da-da-da. And I think that Mama Bear mode went into action with Parvati, and she doesn't like that he's kind of making Dixon, he's going after Dixon indirectly here in this speech, and he's going on, and he still ended up getting what he wanted. So she's like,
Yeah. Enough. She's like, Dr. Will, he's so annoying. How long is this going to go on? And I'm like, is she talking about my podcast?
No.
With Will?
No.
So he just keeps going and going.
Did you see
We
the
get
timestamp?
it. Come on. She's like, I'm not going to hear it. I'm going to walk away.
Yeah. Dr. Will was making one tiny point though about Dixon. Dixon definitely was trying to play Dr. Will. Like, he was afraid of the heights.
Yeah.
He acknowledged that, but he was also like, "Oh, I'm so afraid. Can we just drop right now while you're unsafe?" And Will's like, "I see you. I see what you're doing. You're not like you think that you have like this, strategic upper hand on me right now, but you don't. And I really want to show you that by doing this whole thing." And so that's why he's hell-bent on making sure we hear about this bit. I mean, he goes through the play-by-play, and then I wanted to argue with Letty about why I should be the one to go into the bottom. And then I wanted to do this, and then I wanted to do that. Yeah, Parvati's fed up. But Will says the family of weasels is growing stronger every day, and he needs to shut it down.
Family of weasels. Okay. So we see Will go to work, that he wants to play the banker. Seychelle wants Will to dismantle the family.
Yeah. Don't go.
I mean, like, if you're Seychelle and you're seeing this alliance and you are seeing them constantly be safe, yeah, the one person that is vulnerable is maybe not your top choice and someone that you want to take out. But you have to do something, because the more people that they have on that side, the more chances that they're all safe. And it's like, you gotta start chipping away at it however you can.
Yeah,
So I love this for Seychelle. Like, I don't think that she's really working with CK that strongly, but she's like, I'm not letting just CK go here. Like, let's do something a little bit more like monumental here.
Yeah, it's not just Seychelle and CK. Philip says he's ready to Paul Bunyan that family tree.
Yeah. And I was like, what's the name of this alliance? The lumberjacks? The lumberjack?
Whoa.
Is that what you call people who like chopped down?
Yeah. Is that what Paul Bunyan was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a lumberjack.
But I was trying to figure out a name for the alliance, because
the Lumberjacks and Janes. I don't know.
Yeah,
the
Jackson Jills. Yeah. I like it. Kind of.
Maybe they have a name in
Lumberjills and Lumberjacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I need another name for this alliance, because they're chopping down the family tree. And I like what Seychelle says. Seychelle's like, I'm getting CK so we can eliminate these dweebs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is hating, and it's so funny. Like,
I love it.
She is hating dweebs.
Okay. They bring CK in to have a little talk with Dr. Will, and CK wants to make sure she's going to trust Dr. Will. Dr. Will wants to send home MG. Is CK okay with this?
I mean, best case scenario for her, he loses against the banker, and then she doesn't have to worry about anything at all. I think that's like the one part that it's sometimes easy to forget, because we're always worried about like who they're going to take out if they win. But there's a non-zero chance that they just lose. And he's like, okay, she's like, whew, maybe he'll just go away. Hell, and I don't have to deal with him at all. Yeah.
That's putting a lot of faith, though, if you're CK, because it's like, we saw her be pretty comfortable with, facing the banker earlier in the game. And it's like, if your worst nightmare is having no, say in your fate and leaving it in the hands of this man that you literally cannot stand and giving him the potential power to eliminate you, just point at you, say, get the hell out. Like, if you're CK, that is literally your worst nightmare in this game. And I thought it was a little interesting that she didn't try to lobby to play the banker herself to prevent that situation. And she could have said whatever she wanted to say. You know, she could have said, if you don't want Will gone, that's fine. I'll do MG if you guys want. But I don't know if I can trust Will to do what we say. And I'm for the alliance, whatever. Let's get rid of the family. But I would feel much more comfortable if it's me that does it. So I just think this is like kind of ballsy from CK to just be like, because how are you trusting that this is what he's going to do? Like, I think that that's putting a lot of faith.
But I think I'd rather, put some trust in Will in that, if it's truly a 50-50, okay, 50% chance he's going to go home, 50% chance he's going to stay. If he stays, it's still not 100% chance he's going to go for CK. So you're playing the percentages to some degree that, okay, and maybe it's 50-50 that he's lying to me or he's telling the truth. You still have a 75% chance that you're staying as opposed to the 50% chance of you playing the banker.
Yeah. I also feel like CK says a few things in this episode that kind of indicate that she senses her place in the game has kind of been a little unsteady. Like, I feel like she maybe realizes like she put a lot of heat on herself and needs to kind of make up some ground, because there's kind of like these two factions like that she's not really a part of, because I don't really feel like she's part of like the nucleus of like the opposition to the family. Like, she got kind of pulled in. I sort of see that as more of like a Seychelle, Letty, Philip, Will's kind of been pulled in. I assume Lachelle is part of it, but even though we don't see her in a lot of these conversations, CK gets pulled in as like, we need her as a number here. It didn't really seem like she was really part of that alliance, because she makes this comment earlier in the episode too about how, she really hated that she had to give Seychelle the power there and let go, but she realizes that she needs to like make herself trustworthy to people. So I think that she's trying to like repair her place in the game as well, which would explain why she's like, I gotta just play along and let these people get what they want here.
Yeah, so and on top of all of that, the family's target could not be any bigger. I mean, they're doing TikToks. Did you see them like, mom and dad? I was like,
cool
what?
Dad, cool mom.
I'm a cool mom.
I was like, wait, y'all. This is a game of strategy. Stop it. Why are y'all doing this? People can see you. They can see you. Oh, man. Yeah. At this point, I knew. I was like, it's either Dr. Will or MG. There's no way CK is completely safe.
Yeah. Well, I think that if you take a look at Parvati's allies in her Survivor career, like, Parvati doesn't really have like secret alliances with people. When Parvati is aligned with somebody, it's very public.
Yeah.
This is my friend. This is who I like. This is who I want to hang out with. People I don't like, I'm not going to give the time of day to.
And if it's family, what are you gonna say? Like, don't hang out with your family. Like, disown your family.
Family? Yeah,
that's messed up. Why would you ask that of me?
Chappell, were you saying something else about Parvati?
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking out loud, but no, I think that her and the public alliances have gotten her in trouble before, though. Like, I think think back to Eliza back in Micronesia being like, you never let me in, you never let me try to be a part of the cool kids club. Like, that's a thing that happens. And so here I'm just thinking, right now she's safe. And I think that's why she can play a little bit looser. The argument that she gets into with Dr. Will, I don't think she does that if she is necessarily, a potential target. And maybe some of this as well with David and Dixon. They all hanging out because they know tonight at the Banker's Temple, they don't have to worry. MG is the only one who has to worry. And they're hoping, and Parvati has been doing this for several episodes. She has been trying to push CK to the front of the target list. And so, if her work has paid off here, Dr. Will should be going after CK. She shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Okay. Seychelle says watching this is going to be like watching Sex in the City for the first time.
I did that last year. It's
fine. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But I think she really likes it, is what she's saying.
Yeah.
I only saw the premiere. And that's all.
Yeah. All right. Will refers to himself as the curator of chaos. You like that nickname?
Kind of like that nickname. It's nice.
It's got
Yeah.
alliteration. I like
right.
some alliteration. So.
We get a big moment that we've been waiting for all season. Dixon comes to Will, and he's like, Will you tell me what you're going to do tonight?
Why am I a weasel? Like, why?
Mhm.
Like, in what way?
Yeah, first he's like he and this is how I knew that Will got under his skin a little bit with the speech about him being a weasel, is that he was like, "Hey man, like, can I just ask you, like, why am I a weasel?" And he's like, "Oh, you don't think you think you're trustworthy? Can you look at me and say that you're that you're trustworthy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm trustworthy." And he said, "That's good for you."
Good for you. Okay.
Good for
All
you.
right.
Yeah. And so
like
he wants to know from Will a name. Who are you going to get rid of tonight?
Nunya.
Nunya. Yeah.
Little someone named Nunya.
Nunya.
None your damn business.
Because you're
A
untrustworthy.
classic.
Dr. Will be reminding me daily that he is 52 years old. You know, like because Dr. Will seems like such a cool reality TV character, but like Dr. Will is like the embarrassing dad that comes and like says the joke in front of all your friends, and like everybody's loving him, but the kid is the only person who's like, "Oh, come on, Dad, stop it." I could definitely see that for Dr. Will. I love this.
Okay. We go to the temple.
I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that he picked, like, I don't know, the perfect person to pull that on as well, though, because I think if you're Dixon, you would also believe that Will thinks that there's someone in the game that he doesn't know the name of, where he's like, gets someone's name wrong and he's like, "Who are you eliminating?" Like
No,
Will is on
Lachelle.
planet.
Yeah.
Like he's just saying, like, who does he think's name is Nunya? Like it was
Nunya.
just it was pulled off perfectly.
He's a little too young to know the joke is coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like that age where it's like he just missed it. Okay, I think he's just a pinch underneath where he would have got that one.
That's true.
Let's talk about the temple. Huge temple tonight. All right. Before we talk about what Dr. Will does, Chappell, do you want to weigh in on the Golden God's new haircut?
David and the cornrows.
New hairdo.
Who did them? I forget seeing.
I saw someone braiding his hair, but I don't remember who it was. It was probably MG if I had to think about it. But yeah, I peeped Golden God with his straight backs. I was like, okay, vacation cornrows. Anytime you go to a tropical locale, there's always some local who is braiding some white lady's hair into these like long strands,
usually beads.
With beads. And so I was like, I kind of love that. But it's probably very hot out there and he has a lot of hair. And so I'm sure he'd be just trying to tie it back so it's not everywhere.
Earlier in the episode, he had like the pigtail braids as well. So I think that he's like experimenting with like a lot of different hairstyles while on the Dondi Beach here.
It's so humid out there, I bet. Like it's just probably like sticky, you know.
Get it off of me.
Yeah.
All right. Will has to decide who is going. I'm sorry. Letting us decide who's going to play the banker, and it is going to be Dr. Will. Dr. Will versus the banker.
And they love this. They love Dr. Will, and they're all rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's their favorite player.
Okay. There was one point. Okay. Seychelles says something to David. Did you clock what that was?
Oh.
What did she say?
I want to talk about this whole thing.
Okay.
Because I had questions about it. Well, not really questions, but so Seychelles turns to David as Will's about to pick his case. And she says to him, are you thinking about a case? Like, are you thinking about like what number you would pick if this was you up here? And David says, I'm thinking about this nutcase.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, there were captions which helped me fill in the blanks, but I watched this more than once and it really sounds like he's saying, I'm thinking about his nutcase. Which is
I thought he said his
funnier.
Not case, like his case.
His not case.
Yeah, his not case. Yeah, you think about his case, I'm thinking about his not case. Like the opposite of whatever he's thinking. I think same general consensus.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, same idea. I think. Yeah, but I think he's just shading Will and saying that I'm thinking about this nut case.
Yeah.
but it really sounds like he says his nutcase, which is definitely a different.
That's
story.
different. That's different. Okay.
But what is that exactly? Because the nutcase, I've never heard.
That's just another word for the storage system.
I mean, but this is the first time anybody's like,
just let her cook, Chappell. Just so that's
maybe
I don't know.
We're calling it nutcase, okay? Storage for nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Where he keeps his nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The nutcase.
Yeah.
His nutcase.
Okay. Choose a case. Okay.
Yeah. I choose the nutcase.
Yeah.
I gotta choose your own.
Take case number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well, yeah.
Dr. Will chooses case 12. No reason.
Yeah. No
okay.
reason. Arbitrary.
The reason is you can work up to it.
You can work up to it.
That's the reason.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
I thought this was low key, very creative. I mean, like, how many games of Deal or No Deal have there been? Nobody's ever done this before.
They might have done this before, Rob. There was a lot of games of Deal or No Deal. Maybe not on Don D, but Proper probably had it. You know, something like this.
Don.
Yeah.
All right. So Dr. Will chooses case number 1 on Don. Yeah.
And as soon as he does this, I know what's happening. As soon as he picks one, I said, let's effing go. Because I know what ridiculousness is about to ensue.
2.5 mil off the board. Okay. Then he goes to case number 2 and the groans start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like he's not doing what we think he's doing, right?
They're giving the family feud like, good answer. Like,
why won't he open the cases in random order?
I want to not know what's next.
Right.
Even though I don't know what's in the case. Like,
yeah.
There's still surprises.
Okay. And then he opens case number 3, $250. Case number 4, $2 million. Okay.
I think Michelle is into it. She's kind of like, okay, I like it. This is different. Okay. I was watching her. She's kind of like us at home. Like, oh, this is some crazy shit going on. Okay.
She's entertained by this nonsense.
Parv is exasperated. She's watched Dr. Will open up cases 1, 2, 3, and 4. The audacity.
Not even a reason.
How could he?
He's off his rock.
He's lost it. Okay.
Now, should he have done the same thing, but just made up things to go with each number?
I think he did what he wanted to do perfectly.
Yeah. I agree. I'm just wondering, like, do you think that there was another way that he could do it that would piss them off less? Or was the very fact that he was just going in sequential order?
Well, I would say that his goal seems to be, and I don't know if this is the proper prescription to win the show, but if his goal is to annoy the other players as much as possible, he 100% accomplished the mission. He understood his assignment and did it because they are furious. And so they get upset with him. The deal comes in. I didn't even write down what it was, like $70,000. $72,000. And now he pushes the button instantly. Now, okay.
I was like, yes, King.
Yes, it's a player's board, okay? I mean, the odds are in his favor. There were 5 cases below the deal. There were 3 cases above. We'll find out later. He has $1,000 in his case. This would have been fine. He would have been safe here had he taken this deal. It's a player board. Parvati says, aren't you the guy who said that you were coming here for big risks and to stack that cash? David, I think, calls Dr. Will the B word.
He said he's bitch made.
Bitch made.
That's a
what
different
does that
B word.
mean? What's that one?
Bitch, and then there's bitch made.
Bitch made.
Like,
what's bitch made?
Bitch made go way back. You know, they have to be outside for bitch made.
Is that Australian slang?
Oh no. If it is, it definitely made its way over here.
Yeah,
to the rest
definitely.
of us.
What's bitch made?
It's just like another iteration of bitch. You know, it's like
it's just it hits harder though.
It hits harder. It's like you bitch to your core if you bitch.
Yeah,
made,
you're made.
You know?
Like that's your material. Like
you are made of bitch material.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just hits a little bit harder. And I was like, David is mad. He just called him bitch made.
A little too tight.
Yeah, he's hot.
He was getting mad.
But Dr. Will demonstrates a mastery of knowledge of the Dondi rulebook because even though he pushed the button, this is who knew? Since when? That it is not an official deal until Joe Manganiello asks you deal or no deal. Like the button is a prop.
Release the
The button's
footage
fake.
of Will in the equivalents of the Big Brother storage room, reading the rule book like OTT, was it Chrissy?
Yes.
Mhm.
Like we need him going over the Dondi rule book to make sure that he got this right. And I'm sure that's what he did after the last episode when he was told that he couldn't do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's how he figures out that this is a rule.
The button is fake news.
Yeah, I mean the button matters, but you have to trigger the mechanism. You can't just walk over and press the button. It's like if somebody honestly, you remember when we were talking about that first time where they were you had to go in the Banker's Temple and I guess it could be duos in there or something like that. And I was like, what if you just ran over and like pressed the button for you like I'm sorry, taking the deal.
I guess
you just get somebody out like that. I guess this is like to keep that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joe has to specifically ask you if you're ready to take the deal.
It's interesting though, because I think, does the light go off when you hit it, or is it lit already? And then when you hit it, it goes off, or does it light up when you hit it? Because I feel like something happened when he hit the button, and when he does it for real after being prompted, nothing is different. There's nothing. Nothing.
Do you have
is
to
actually
close the thing also? Is it to lock it in? Like, is there just a button? Button is nothing.
Yeah. Close it. You gotta close it.
Well, because you would only close it if you're not taking the deal. Because I feel like no one is closing it after they hit it.
Right.
So
press the button and then close it.
Yeah.
That's
locking it in.
Yeah. But okay, so we all watched this episode. Rob, when he does
No,
this,
I didn't actually.
So we'll put ourselves in a moment. When he hits the button, what is your first thought? Is your first thought like, well, it's a good deal?
Well, my first thought was that there's a lot of time left in this episode. And then my second thought was like, well, I mean, look, he is playing the percentages. I mean, he has a better than 50% chance, which is always sort of like the, time that you should take the deal. It wasn't like wildly in his favor, but I could see it. I mean, he's opened 3 big cases from the right hand side of the board. So I didn't think it was the craziest deal. And I didn't really know why the peanut gallery was like so furious of what he was doing.
I loved it.
You loved it.
I was like, more people should do this. If you're like, what good is this final case value, which there will be other weeks to build it up. We literally just saw Dixon stack it in 1 week. There was 1 week where there was a $1 in it. So if you don't have a chance, if you are eliminated and make a bad deal, and when you are given a deal that has those kinds of odds, I don't know. And you're a risk taker type guy. I think that.
For the record, Boston Rob took a deal last season that was probably in the same ballpark range of $70,000, and nobody's like, "Oh my god, loser!"
And
bitch made.
People don't like you anyway.
Yeah.
So why do you care about getting a bunch of money? What you care about is making sure you stay in the game and taking out the person that you made a deal with a bunch of other people to do. Those are your only 2 objectives if you're Dr. Will here. You're not caring about adding a bunch of money and putting yourself in a precarious position where you're making a 50-50 decision. You make a calculated decision based on odds that is probably going to keep you safe, and then you stick to your word if that's what's best for your game, which I think was best for his game in this scenario. That's all he needs to do. These people a lot of these people want to eliminate you. Why do you care about making money for them? So I was fully on board. I was I thought it was so badass. And I was almost a little disappointed when he decided to renege and keep going. I was like, you just take
but
it.
He does a classic Dr. Will move of, see that, Joe? I got them to do exactly what I wanted them to do. And they've all showed their hands. And now I will proceed to open cases.
Nothing has changed. But I'm going to say it did. Like this man did not change his plan because of how they reacted to him pressing that button. I'm on the fence because I understand why they would be annoyed. I think that, first of all, who takes the first deal? What is the point of this game if you're going to go take the first deal the baker offers you? The first one? It's like, bro, the first one's a throwaway. It doesn't matter what your odds are at that point. You gotta keep playing. And so when he does this, I'm thinking, okay, it is a decent deal for him. The odds are in his favor, but that ain't why we signed up for this. And I think a lot of them are fans of Deal or No Deal, right? And if you're a fan of Deal or No Deal, you come here because you like that kind of excitement. You like the fun parts of this thing. And Dr. Will is trying to snatch that from you. Now, when he does make this all about himself by pressing the button and then coming back and being like, ha, I tricked you. And also, now I'm a mastermind again because you all fell for my devious plan. I probably would have got up and left. I don't know. I would have been like, all right, I'm over this. But as far as television goes, more of this, please, and thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it for them. Like, I totally understand, especially when all these people are pissed off by him anyway. Like, I get it would be absolutely infuriating. But in terms of like just straight up, we're talking like about the decisions that some of these people make, and they go too far, and like, like, oh, you had much better odds, and like not going to be any good if you decide to stick with a case that has $1 in it or whatever. So I just think from a game perspective, if you care about playing the odds or just like sticking to the strategy that you've decided, where it's like, I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and as soon as I get a deal that I feel like are the best odds I'm gonna see, I take it, then I love it for him. But yeah, definitely infuriating for people that are trying to make money and don't like that he's doing this.
But who should not be infuriated? Anybody who watches the show. Because Dr. Will, I mean, the biggest thing that you should take away from my conversation with Dr. Will is that he takes a lot of pride in being somebody who is there to entertain you at home. That's why he goes and does the shows that, from all accounts, he's independently wealthy. That the money, maybe outside of the millions and millions of dollars of the grand prize, like this for him is about, he's here to do something you've never seen before. And I think that that's how he approaches every one of these moments on Deal or No Deal Island. What can I do that you wouldn't expect that's going to optimize for being the most entertaining thing I could do on this show?
Yeah. If you like Dr. Will, this is great TV. If you're not a fan of Dr. Will, I'd imagine you didn't love this too much.
Yeah. But I also think, do you not love good TV? I don't know. I guess if you're really just watching invested in a certain player or a certain narrative, then yeah, this would be extremely frustrating. And it's like, yeah, he is doing a lot to make it the Dr. Will show, and like it's frustrating to the other contestants playing.
Yeah.
But like the proof is in the pudding, in where David, who is so infuriated by this man, is so annoyed, literally calls him bitch made. We have a confessional where he goes, it might look funny at home, but it's not. Stop laughing. And then he like stops for a second. He says, it's really funny. He's really good. God damn it. Like he's catching himself being like, I hate it, but also it's pretty entertaining. Like,
yeah.
So if David, who is having to deal with this in real time, is annoyed, but also can step back and be like, it is kind of delivering some entertainment. It's pretty funny. He's a good troll.
All due respect to all the other people on the show, they would be perfectly content to give you a very boring season in which they win the jackpot. Will is the only person who's there who's willing to say, I'll risk it all just so I could entertain you at home.
Yeah.
Will's fighting for you.
Yeah, like if it works out, it's entertaining. If Will goes home in this episode, then he just wasted my time, and I don't think it's as entertaining as it should have been, So we are blessed. We are blessed that this man survived this episode. Because David can see the joy in it a little bit. He's doing it through gritted teeth. But Parvati says that Will is the worst human ever. Okay, like the worst human or a bad person Okay, so your mileage.
She
may
said
vary.
narcissistic abuse.
Yeah. She's pissed.
We're hurling
Mhm.
terms around now.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
she's
right.
done.
Will goes back to work. Picks case 5, $3 million. Okay. That's good for Will. Okay. And then picks case 6, $500. So now he's presented with another deal. Again, another player's board. 4 are below, 2 are over the offer, which comes in $168,000. Will's at 66% odds here to take the deal. But what's better, making a good deal or making more money for the bank?
I mean, but you could do both. So that's the thing. What 168 to 72 is what, 90 something $1,000 or something like that? Like, sir, you almost took the first deal. You just throwing 90,000 away just because you bored. Like that's the kind of thing that's pissing these people off. And so yeah, they have to really talk about it, because a part of them is like, we want Will to lose, but also some of them want Will to win and do what they want him to do. And then a lot of them really want the money. So they're just hoping that he doesn't no deal and stick around and then, end up screwing him out of all this money that he's now worked his way up to. I think they're right for wanting him to take the deal here.
Okay. Dr. Will has taken the deal. And he confirms it with Joe Manganiello. Okay? And he opens his case. $1,000. He's done it.
He did it.
He did it. He did the thing.
The most silence to a good deal made ever. There was crickets. Like it was.
He can't keep getting away with this.
Oh, he's about to do something that the unspeakable, because he's about to target the family directly in their face. You thought this was bad. It's about to get worse.
Yes. And so, Will, okay, it's time for you to tell us who is eliminated. And he says, CK, you haven't been that kind to me. And he goes on to say, the person going home is MG.
And then walks away.
And then he
immediately
left. He left again.
Yeah.
And production's like, you have to go back. You literally have to go back. He's like, no, I just made a grand exit. It's like, you have to go back. He's like, fine.
Where did he go?
Okay, Rob.
Someone said, why did he leave?
Rob, if after listening to your 4-hour podcast with Will,
yes,
may I raise a theory?
Yes.
Perhaps he needed to fart.
Oh, you think so?
And he didn't want to be rude. And I don't know. I don't know what the situation is in the temple, but
I think he likes to make a big egg. He likes to like mic drop and like walk out of the room. And if you notice at the end of the interview with me, that's what he does. I think that's like his signature move of he likes to just like do the thing and then drop the mic and walk off.
But I bet you he also maybe farted when he was
perhaps.
Ginny's like, but
perfect opportunity.
Yes. Yeah. He said that he was having some severe gastrointestinal distress.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was sweating near the end of I noticed that there was a point where he was glistening. And not just because they say that he's a vampire.
No.
So I think that he might have still been fighting through it at this point.
But this is my favorite thing that he does, not the walk off. When he comes back, he announces the deal he made to everybody. Because this is not Dr. Will going rogue. Dr. Will says, no, your people that you thought were your friends targeted you. They used me. I made a deal. MG, I think you're lovely. I adore you. And I'm so sorry it had to be you. But it was your people who threw you under the bus. And I don't think she cared in the moment. She definitely said he was a garbage man and all this other stuff. She was rooting for everybody else. But I think, and I guess I could ask her this in our exit interviews. Now that she's seen it back, does she see that he has a point? They actually, a lot of the contestants offered her up as sacrifice.
I don't think that Will would have gone after MG if it weren't for, him quickly realizing that was what people wanted him to do, and also understanding that even though MG wasn't a direct threat to him, that it is the best he can do at chipping away at the family. And if he does what is asked of him, then he's gaining some allies, and that might be good for him in this game. So because we see him in that room with Letty and Seychelle and Philip, and they say like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, well, it's like CK. I mean, she put my name out there in front of America.
Right.
Like he says what he thinks he's supposed to say, and then as soon as he notices that they're like, well, what about if you instead went after MG? So I really think that he's being honest here, and that he's like, I probably wouldn't have done this if it weren't for these other people, so be mad at them. Because I don't think to him that's like a huge mic drop move without the impacts of like pissing off the family. Like I think that he gets still more satisfaction out of eliminating CK because he knows that she hates him and he doesn't like that. You know what I mean? Like that is still the personal petty part of him that's like he would like to have that last laugh. But like if anything, this is Will like, you know, putting aside some of his differences for the greater good here. So I think if you're MG and you watch this back, you're probably like, yeah, I should be more mad at like, you know, maybe Seychelles or Letty or some of these people that I think that I was okay with, and they just said no, she got to go. So I don't know, but maybe MG just still thinks he's a garbage person.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Parvati was not happy with this. She's like, I told you.
Mm-hmm. She hates him. He's the worst.
What did she tell MG though? She said, I told you this guy. So do you think that she went to MG and said, there's a chance that he could eliminate you?
Either that, or she's just been like, I've been complaining about him for 4 days now. You know, like I've been telling you this guy sucks. Okay?
And Maria Grace like, he's not that bad.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, look at him. He is. But you know, now that Will has outed this plan, maybe the sides can fight each other and not come after Will. You know, he's very good at that. We saw that in Big Brother 2, and I think we saw it in All Stars as well. Whereas you can get the two sides of the house fighting and thinking that you're the thing that's on their side, the target that's so big that nobody will waste their time coming after you because there are other bigger threats or more people who betrayed you on the other side. Then Will could slide back into a slot that he's been very comfortable in, and this could go well.
Yeah. I mean, is it worth taking out Dr. Will when there's all these people that are like, they have the numbers of like,
alliance.
You know, CK and Seychelles and Philip that are over there?
Yeah, Lachelle. Like Philip knew what was going to happen, Parvati. That's your best friend. He didn't tell you? Dang.
They'd be thrilled if the family took out Dr. Will.
Yeah.
Well, and you also, if you're the family, I suppose you're also thinking like, God, I hate Will, but he's being used by these people that are like playing us good, and they will still get rid of him if they're in a situation where they have no choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's still the bottom of the totem pole. Like they're still very happy to get rid of him. So I could see that being in a situation where it's like he's vulnerable, but like, you know, maybe like a Seychelles or a Letty or a Philip is also vulnerable. Like it's the kind of the same thing. Like, you know, if MG and Dixon and Parvati were all vulnerable tonight, I don't think anyone was going for MG in that situation. So I think that there's definitely a chance that he could kind of duck under and say, these are the real problem. These people, they're up to something. Okay. This might be wishful thinking on my part.
Super exciting episode 5 of Dondi tonight. A lot to still process, and I can't wait to hear what Maria Grace has to say on the exit tomorrow.
I'm sure she's gonna have some strong opinions. These have been a hard 2 episodes for Maria Grace for sure.
And what did she spend like one night without Storm? Reunited.
And it feels so good.
It feels so good. I hope.
We asked about their status on the exit interview. You have to go check out last week's conversation with Storm, and maybe there's a follow-up to ask with MG tomorrow. We'll see.
So we gotta.
Okay. All right, we'll find out when they spill the iced tea on the exit interview tomorrow. You can hear that weknowdondi.com and also watch it here on YouTube. Same place where you can check out my interview with Dr. Will Kirby. If you want to get a little bit more insight into the mind of the man at the center of this week's Dondi, you can hear that podcast as well. Love to get your feedback on that. Jenny, what else is coming up for you?
Not a whole lot. I feel like, in some time, I've been thinking about Big Brother lately. think I feel like I might want to talk about Big Brother at some
Oh.
point, but I don't know.
Ooh.
We'll just see when the moment strikes. Other than that, I'm just like, Dondi's really getting good, and I'm having such a good time. Yeah, and I just that interview just made me an even bigger fan of Dr. Will. Shout out to the Don Divas and the Don Deviants, as always, pulling through, giving us love. Appreciate you. Follow me on social media at Jenny Autumn, and I'm just having a great time over here.
Chappell and I, the other day, got the chance to talk about a brand new show. We were hanging with Hulu that we talked about, a show called Paradise. It's no Banker's Island, but Paradise, I really enjoyed it. I heard from a lot of people that they also, very intriguing new show. I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought it was a lot of fun. Paradise on Hanging with Hulu. But Chappell, this is a huge week for you.
Yes. First of all, happy Black History Month, but also this is the year anniversary of Recap Kickback, my podcast where I talk about whatever I want to talk about. It's been a whole year, and I think this Thursday is the official year of the first podcast we launched on the Recap Kickback. And so thank you again, Rob, for giving me that platform to do what I want on it. And we're going to have a good time this week. We got game night planned. It's going to be fun. It's going to be on YouTube. Check it out in our YouTube videos, youtube.com/@recapkickback. We had Grammys, a reaction panel that went, it was crazy. I'd never done that before, so that was fun. So I'm just trying to switch things up for year two. And you too can be a part of that by going to subscribe to the podcast, recapkickback.com/subscribe or youtube.com/@recapkickback, and hit that subscribe button to show some love for year two of Recap Kickback.
All right. Thank you all so much for checking out our Dondi coverage. We love to read your feedback here on our YouTube channel, robbinswebsite.com/YouTube. We'll be back with Exit Interview. We know Dondi.com. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.